Hello and welcome to k8s, a cloud-native YouTube channel. In today's video, I'll be showing you exactly how to deploy the same application to a VM, a Docker container, and using Kubernetes to manage it. This is to help you understand that a container is just a compute unit, just like a virtual machine or a physical server. I'm Dr. Damien Igbe, a Kubstronaut, meaning that I've passed all the 5 Kubernetes certifications such as CKA, k8s, k8s, kCNA, and kCSA. I'm also an AWS Certified Solution Architect professional. I have been using containers for the past 12 years. So for this video, this is the agenda. I'll deploy the same web application to a virtual machine, to a Docker container, and I'll use Kubernetes to manage it. After that, we'll have some discussions and conclusion. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel for similar videos. To follow through in these exercises, in your laptop, you can install Docker for Desktop, which is the easiest option, or you can install something called Minikube. For both of them, if you search on the internet, you'll find how to do them. In my own case, I'll be using a local Kubernetes cluster consisting of 3 nodes, and I'll be using the master node where Docker is installed to do the exercises on Docker. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the demo using these 3 scenarios. So basically, as I said, we have 3 demos that I'm going to show you. First, I'm going to deploy a web application called Educate on a virtual machine, then a container, and then Kubernetes. The steps are all highlighted here for you. Just follow them step by step. For the VM, these are the steps. For the container, these are all the steps as well. And for the container, you will need a Docker file. That information is right here. And for Kubernetes, these are the steps to do the lab, and these are the files that you need to create as well. These are the YAML files, one for the deployment and one for the service object. Okay, so let me go ahead and follow the steps for you. In my own case, I already logged onto the server. So here is my master node for my cluster. If I do kubectl gate nodes, you'll see that I have a 3-node cluster with the master node and then 2 worker nodes. Okay, also if you see here, I have created 3 folders, one for the container lab, one for the Kubernetes, and then one for the virtual machine. And I also have the application right here, but if you wanted to clone this application, the URL is right here for you to use, which is that URL over there. Okay, so let's start with the first one, which is the virtual machine. For the virtual machine, I have to go into VM. In this folder, I already have a script, which is basically all the instructions that you have here. And this is to make it easy for me to avoid typos and things like that. So I'm just going to run this script. So I'm going to run the script here called vm.shell, and it will go ahead and do the lab for me. So once I log in, it will go ahead and do everything here. It's going to update the server, install Git so that we can clone the repository, install Apache web server, which we're going to use for hosting the website, and then we're going to clone the repository and then move it to this directory here where Apache needs to serve a website from. After that, we make sure that Apache has started, check the status, and we're good to go. So far, everything looks good. The script has been executed. Apache is running, as you can see here. So now, to show you this application running, I need to go to a web browser and just show you the website running on port 80. So let me clear the screen here, go back here to my web browser, and create one of these tab and put the IP address, and the IP address of my server is that. So I press enter and I have my Educate website running here. So that's a beautiful website coming right here from this server. If I go back here and I can show you the IP of this server, if I do IPA and I go straight to my interface here, you see that that is actually the IP address for this server. And of course, if you want me I can also do sudo system ctl, and I can say stop Apache 2 system ctl. I can say sudo system ctl stop Apache 2, and if I check the status now, it's no longer running. So if I come back here and I reload, Apache is no longer, well, the website is no longer running. And if I go back here and restart it again, it should be working. So start Apache 2 and go back and check, and now the website is back on. Perfect. So scenario 1, we have done that. We have deployed the same application on a virtual machine. Let's go to the one on the container. So for the container, all the steps are here. I need to change directory into my container, and I have the files that are here. The Docker file is here. That Docker file has its content here. I have the educate directory. I have the educate application here. Again, that educate, you can clone it from this repository. Then I have a script that I'm going to use. I have a script I'm going to use. That script is this one here, which is exactly what you have in here. I just make sure that I put all the steps right here. Okay, so let's run the script. And we're just going to wait for it. Put the IP, put my password, and this code is running. Again, for this one, we are creating the Docker file. Once you create a Docker file, make sure you have the content on the following page inside that file. You can use VI or any editor to do that. Then we install Docker, and then we start Docker. Then we build our image using Docker build. To build this image, remember that dot there. That dot is important. It means pick the Docker file from this directory. After that, we do Docker images to make sure our image is built, and you can see that our image here is built right here. After that, we do a Docker login onto the Docker Hub to make sure that we put in the credentials. In my own case, I'm having the credentials for igbedo, which is my username on Docker Hub. If you are doing this exercise, you have to go to Docker Hub and create your account. And here is Docker Hub. If you go to hub.docker.com, so here you go in there and then you create your own account to follow through, which means you need to replace my username with yours. All right. After that, we check that our image is there. We do a Docker login, again to put the credentials. We do a Docker push to push the image to Docker registry. After that, we run the container and put it on port 8080. This command here, run the Docker container, put it as a daemon, which means that that's a process running at the background, so it doesn't take up the shell. And this port 8080 is a port on the local host, while port 80 is a port inside the container where the application is running. So when we run that command, you see that we have an ID here, which is for the container, meaning that everything is fine. But if you want to check, do Docker PS, and to ensure that our application is running, that is right there. This container is running, and you can see the port which was exposed. Okay, so everything is fine for the container. Let's go ahead again and run the call the website. We use 192, which is the same IP address here, and then put 8080 and enter, and we see the same website. Same application running on port 80, same application running on port 8080. This one coming from the VM, this one coming from the container. That is the second scenario of this same application running running in the container. Okay, so for the third step, we're going to see how to run this with Kubernetes, and that is this step here. And again, let me change into my Kubernetes directory here and see what files I have in there. So the steps for the Kubernetes, make sure you have a Kubernetes cluster running. If you install Docker for desktop, or you already have Minikube, you should have Kubernetes running. For Docker for desktop, you need to make sure you enable Kubernetes. This is easy to do. Just investigate how to do that. Okay, and then once your Kubernetes cluster is up and running, make sure you create 2 files, one for the deployment, one for the service. And in my own case here, the one for the deployment is this one here, and the one for the service is this one here. And both of the files, I have them here for you as well, so you can use them if you want to follow along. So basically, in Kubernetes, you need to first create the YAML files describing how you want your object to be deployed, and all the details are here. I won't go into the details here, but in subsequent videos and also in the full training, you have access to all the what all this means. Okay, so the way it works is that the service object is going to act as a load balancer pointing to the backend pods that we're creating. And in that case, the backend pods will be the containers that are running our educate application. So with these 2 files here, we just do kubectl create -f. I just put a dot, meaning all the YAML files in this directory. And if I do that, it says that the 2 objects have been created. So let's check kubectl get pods, and they are still getting created, and they are all running at the moment. You can see them running there. Let's check the service object, and for the service object, we see the educate service is running. It's of a type node port, which is a type of service in Kubernetes. Basically, there are 3 types of services. One is the cluster IP, which you see right here. This one is a node port, and the third one is the load balancer. All of them have different ways to access them within the cluster or outside of the cluster. But since I'm using a node port, I need the same IP address of the server that we have been using before, and I need this port, which is the one we indicated right here. So with that, since my application is running, the load balancer is there pointing to my backend ports. I just go back again, copy this port here, and I just click another tab, use the same IP address for the server, put the IP there, enter, and I have again the website running. So this one is being managed by Kubernetes. One of the advantages of using Kubernetes is that you can do heavy duty there. So for example, you can manage your networking, you can manage your storage, and from the application perspective, it's also very, very easy to scale. So for example, if I say kubectl get pods, currently you see I have 2 pods running. If I want to scale this, I can say kubectl scale deploy, and the name of this deployment is educate. And I can say -- replicas equals 5, and I do that, and it says scaled, and I do get pods. Now you see that 3 additional pods are being added to my environment. So now I have 5 of them running, which is really cool, which means that I can easily do auto scaling to make sure that as my users are increasing on this website, the application is able to scale itself automatically. Okay, very good. So again, this lab or this demo is just to show you that you can run the same application either on the Blade server or on a virtual machine or on a container, and you can use Kubernetes to manage them. Now, this is showing you that these are all compute units, and whichever one you use depends on the use case, it depends on the scenarios. And to further help you see why you may want to use one over the other, we can go back to these slides here and see some of the things that may influence your choices. For example, if we come down here, you can see that there are differences between virtual machines and container. And these are some of the features of using a VM, and these are some of the features of using a container. You can go through them, but basically you see that when you use a virtual machine, you're actually having a full isolation for your environment, which is good from security perspective, but that also makes them kind of slower and also not really very portable when you want to move them from one environment to another environment. In the case of containers, They are very, very lightweight. We use a container runtime like Docker to run them. And these are process level isolation, which means that actually we're not having a full isolation as you have with a virtual machine. But they are very fast, they're very portable, and these are the things that people like them for. So go through them at your own pace, and if you want to look at the pros and cons, they are basically the things I've just highlighted as well. With virtual machines, they have strong isolation, which means good security, and you can run different operating systems on your environment. For example, one VM can be running Linux, the other VM can be running Windows, and you typically use this for running legacy applications that we call monoliths. Okay, on the case of containers, faster startup, very fast, because these containers, again, they are not full operating system. It's just the applications and all the dependencies that we have inside the container. So very lightweight, easy to scale, as you see that I did that in Kubernetes. And they are very portable. You can move them all across different environments. And here are some of the cons for these two environments. Again, high overhead, but containers, weak isolation, slower boot times. These are less suitable for applications that require full operating system. On and on, you can go through them again at your own time. Okay, very good. Again, I've shown you that a container is just a compute unit. If you're confused with where does container fit in the whole infrastructure of the cloud, of the data center, hopefully this helps you to see the differences between using a virtual machine or a container. And again, please subscribe to our YouTube channel for similar videos, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.